Chuki beat.
Hey guys, welcome back to B2B, Back to Basics with DIY Mixers Crew. I'm your host, Shake and Vape 007, along with Folk Art. So if you guys like this video, make sure you subscribe and give us a like. Subscribe to the channel to get updates on live shows and events. So if you guys have any questions in the chat, make sure you tag us at B2B or DIY Mixers Crew, either or, that's fine. So a little recap on what we talked about last week, and what we did is we did a 2-flavor mix. It was fizz mustard, and it was just a basic strawberry ice cream, or strawberries and cream, if you want to call it. So today what we're going to teach you guys is to kind of tweak the recipe a little bit to your liking. So it can be an all-day vape for you. Throw a couple other flavors in there, experiment with it, to your liking. So that's basically what we're going to do today. So what do you think, Folk Art? How you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, man. A little tired from working all day, but other than that, I'm doing pretty good. Ready to mix up this this profile and see what we come up with.
Yeah, I think this is a good thing about a basic mix, like a basic strawberries and cream. For novice mixers out there, you can pick a couple other different flavors and really change that profile of that juice and the e-juice, the e-liquid, and make it your own, and make it to your liking. So basically what we're going to do today is we are going to try to kind of do a simple strawberry cheesecake for you guys. Real simple mix. Basically last week I said we used what was it, Capella's, no, it was New York, or I'm sorry, TFA vanilla bean ice cream.
Yeah,
strawberry.
and TPA strawberry.
Yeah, TPA. I used Capella's sweet cream. So if you guys got any questions in the chat, feel free to ask. Unfortunately, David couldn't make it again today. It's just a timing thing in Vegas. So we're working on that. So we apologize for that. So basically, we're just going to jump right into mixing. So if you guys have any questions while I'm doing this in the chat, feel free to ask. So if you want to throw, go ahead, Folk Art.
So before you start on that mix, I just wanted to kind of explain the process that I went through when I started mixing. I started out with a simple recipe like mustard's milk, although it was a cream stone, and I needed to have something that I could vape as an all-day vape, just to keep me from having to buy expensive commercial juices and stuff. And so I started out with a basic cream, and I decided to tweak it like what we're going to do today, and I just added some caramel to it. And, that was my own creation, copied from an existing recipe, obviously. But that was my first real kind of mix that I ever did. And so this is kind of how we're going to show the other people how to do it.
Yeah, so basically what I'm going to do, guys, for you mixers out there, is I am going to because like I said, that's the program software that we use when we mix. And we're going to walk you through it today. So basically, Oh, let me grab my sheet here. I'm going to screen share in like 2 seconds here. I just got to grab my sheet here. So last week, correct me if I'm wrong, folk art. Last week, what we did was we did a simple 2-flavor mix. It was 8%.
It was 8%
TFA.
TFA vanilla bean ice cream and 6% TFA strawberry.
TFA strawberry. So those two, okay. So using those two, you have to understand as being a new mixer, when you're making like a 2-flavor recipe, depending on what flavor profile you're using, you are going to see these percentages. You're going to be using those percentages pretty high to kind of get that flavor to come through on like a 2-flavor recipe. Now, when you venture out into you're adding, different flavor profiles into the mix, you're going to want to drop those flavors down in order to, what you want to call it, balance a recipe. It goes back to what Wayne Walker talks about when he balances a recipe. You have to adjust those flavors down. So when you incorporate those new flavors in the mix, they balance out well. That way you get a smooth vape and it's not harsh. Not one flavor is taking over the other in a mix. So basically I'm going to walk you through the process on how we're going to do that today. So like I said, to recap on what we did last week, it was an 8% TFA vanilla bean ice cream and a 6% TFA strawberry. So let me screen share this here for you guys real quick. Now, going back to all the flavors, like I said, this is the program that we use mostly. Some people use ELR, but this is the program that I generally use. So up here, up at the top, you can see I named it B2B Strawberry Cheesecake. It's just a basic strawberry cheesecake that we're going to be doing today.
David, could you increase the size of that just a little bit?
Yeah. All right. Sorry, I'm like staring at my computer, and everybody else probably really can't see it. So is that good, or you need a little bit more?
That's good. Awesome.
Okay. So going back, you put the name up top here. Just put a basic B2B strawberry cheesecake. Okay, now the ingredients list, it's highlighted in pink. So we'll go back to what we did last week. Now, we did an 8% TPA vanilla bean ice cream. Now, the two flavors that we're going to incorporate this is to kind of make a cheesecake base. Is we're gonna pick Capella's New York cheesecake, and we're going to be using vanilla. I'm sorry, 4% New York cheesecake and vanilla whipped cream. We're going to use those two. The vanilla whipped cream is kind of going to be like the topping on the strawberries. But so when we're going to be using the 4% New York cheesecake, we're going to have to drop down that vanilla bean ice cream in order for it to kind of become like a cheesecake, because you really don't want it to taste like a cream or an ice cream. You want to kind of let that cheesecake come through in your vape. So like I said, we're going to drop that TFA vanilla bean ice cream down to 2%. And like I said, last week we used it at 8%. So let me type this in. There we go. Vanilla bean ice cream. Like I said, if you just type it up real quick, it'll come in. There's it. TFA vanilla bean ice cream. Instead of using 6%, we're going to drop that down to 2.5%. Okay. And then last week, we also used the strawberry at 6%. Like I said, I used Capella Sweet Strawberry, but the recipe called for TFA strawberry. So instead of using the 6%, actually we're going to stay with the 6% because with the heavy creams in there, you still want that strawberry to come through, because like strawberry tends to fade a little bit in the mix.
Yeah.
And what that means is that you kind of can't taste it after about a week or two. It starts to drop off, and the other flavors start taking over the mix. So we're going to keep that strawberry at 6%. I mean, you can tweak it a little bit. If you like more strawberry, add another 1 or maybe 1 or 2% more strawberry in there if you want to. You know what I mean? That's up to you guys on how you want to do that.
Yeah. 6%. You know, something that I noticed about the mustard milk, I mean, it's a really good vape, especially since it's so simple to make. I mean, it's just 2 flavorings. The only thing that, and that's kind of why I thought we would tweak this recipe. The only thing that I personally miss from this vape is texture and kind of a mouthfeel. Although that vanilla bean ice cream at that high percentage will give a pretty good mouthfeel, but there's no texture in it. And by adding some texture into it, like with the New York cheesecake, it has some graham crust in it. it'll give more of a texture to the vape.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so with the Capella's New York cheesecake, we're going to be adding that 4%, like Full Cart said, just to add that texture to the vape. You get more of like a Grammy, adds the vanilla. It has like a cheesecake feel to the vape, and then the Capella whipped cream is to kind of accent the vanilla bean ice cream, because we kind of dropped it down. We don't want that cream to be too heavy. You know what I mean? And that vanilla whipped cream will add a little bit of sweetness to the mix too. I forgot to grab my vanilla whipped cream from earlier today.
If anybody has any questions in the chat, please feel free to ask. Just tag us at DIY Mixers Crew, and we'll try to get to your questions.
Okay, so there's the recipe, guys. Like I stated before, you have your title of your recipe up here. Here's the ingredients. And like I said, basically the only thing I did was with that 2-flavor vape that we made last week is I kept the strawberry the same. I dropped the vanilla bean ice cream. Okay, from I put a comma there instead of a period. That'll screw it up. Vanilla bean ice cream down to 2.5% because we incorporated the New York cheesecake from Capella at 4%. So we dropped the vanilla bean ice cream down to give it texture. And the vanilla whipped cream is kind of a top side note, and we added 1.5%, and that'll give us a little bit more sweetness too. So now basically down here, using the ATF software, it says status in progress, original recipe. You have to put a description down here. I think it's like Q says like 13 words or something, or it won't save it or something like that.
Oh really?
I think that's if you're gonna.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think it's if you're going to upload the recipe or something like that. You know what I mean?
Oh, if you make it
down here,
if you make it public or something.
Yeah. So down here is your sharing on what you want to do with this recipe. You can either keep these. You can either share the recipe, searchable, this and that. If you want people to find your recipe on ATF, if it's going to be a private recipe, license portion of all the flavors, you have options. You can put none, to where anybody can just use it, do whatever they want with it, and you have all these down here: the CC attribution 4.0, CC attribution no derivatives. I basically just go, attribution non-commercial, non-derivatives 4.0. I think you do yours a little different, don't you, Folker?
Yeah, I do the CC attribution non-commercial 4.0, the one right above that.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I don't know if there's much of a difference. I've read those things, but if somebody wants to take your recipe, they can take it. There ain't much you can do about it.
Yeah. So basically, down here now is the details. Shake and vape. If you want people to try your recipe right off the scale, you can click the shake and bake button. 90% of the recipes out there, I've seen it. It's always click shake and vape. Now here's this is kind of going to be more what we're doing right now for you novice mixers out here. It's best after steep days. We'll talk about that more in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that basic mixing, basically what a steep is after like 2 or 3 days, some of the flavors kind of bind together to get more of a finished product, get better flavor. They meld together, the molecules mix together, and it kind of brings out if you're using heavier flavors like custard or whatever, it gives it time to really blossom in a recipe.
Yeah.
Now I know from just experience that, this cheesecake's probably going to take roughly, 5 days, with that, with the graham in there, the cheesecake and the graham flavors and all that texture, the vanilla bean ice cream and stuff like that. It's really going to have to meld together. So it would probably taste best after 5 days. Best temperature, I really don't mess with that. I don't use temp control. So, but if you guys that do mix and do use temp control, you do have that option in here to tweak that. So say if you vape it at 300 degrees or whatever like that, you can put that in there. Now, your best VG, this is also your preference, whether or not, like me personally, I pretty much mix all my mixes at 75-25. I know Full Cart's max VG, and it depends on what ratio that you want to use. That's kind of the stuff that we talked in the second video. from B2B. But like I said, we're going to make this today. We're going to do it a 75-25 ratio. So you just put 75 VG. That's the vegetable glycerin that's going to be in there, guys. Now, down here, you can add
Now,
pictures. You know,
David, you don't actually have to put anything in that best VG percentage, do you? I never do. I normally just leave it
don't.
0.
You don't, because when I create my recipes, and I wasn't thinking. When I create my recipes, I always put 75, because when I do a recipe and then I share it to the public,
Yeah,
whatever I made it at, that's what I want people to vape it at,
sure.
because I want them to get the same results that I did. Like, you understand what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I got
if you
you.
was to maybe mix this to the 60-40, you might have a little bit more throat hit. You know, the flavors might be a little bit off. So when you're making a recipe and you're adjusting percentages and stuff like that, and this goes more in depth of like an intermediate mixer. This is kind of stuff like, I guess, new mixers worry about, but you really don't worry about, because it's a lot of people will feel that their way's better. Or, I do a 50-50 or I do a 60-40. I get better flavor of a 60-40 than I do a 70-30 or 75-25. Now, me personally, I don't get I get better flavor off a higher propylene glycol ratio in a recipe than if I was to do it in an 80-20. And there's controversy on that, but me personally, I feel I get better flavor off a higher ratio of propylene glycol. Now, I don't really go, I don't go like anything below like a 70-30. I don't do 60-40s or 50-50 blends. One of the main reasons why I don't is because the viscosity, the thinness of it's so thin once you start hitting it at that 50-50. I'm a dripper, I vape off an RDA, and that shit's just too runny. You know what I mean? Like, I'll tend to over drip. The damn juice will be leaking out everywhere. So I try to keep a happy medium to where I get good flavor. It's not too thin and it's not super thick to where the flavors are kind of getting overpowered by the vegetable glycerin. Now, same thing with you, Farquhar. You said that you kind of adapted your palate to your vaping style. So if you was to mix up a max VG recipe, it kind of would taste the same to you, I guess, as it would, on my end. You know what I mean? Uh, so down here, getting back to the recipe, you can add an image. You can put anything in a middle finger, whatever you want to put on there, and then you can put tags down here. You can write cheesecake or, whatever you want to put down here at the bottom. And at the very bottom, you can either hit just save recipe and then come back to it, or you can hit save and mix. So we're going to hit save and mix. So that way we can mix this up today. Why is it? What's coming up here on my PC? Why is it doing that? Sorry, my computer, I don't know what happened. It's like froze up on me for some reason. Okay, so we saved the mix. Let me blow this up a little bit for you guys. And now this goes back to the second week, guys, on what we were talking about a recipe. You want to use nicotine, so you check this box. If you don't want to use nicotine, uncheck that box. If you want a 0 milligram nicotine, my nicotine strength is 100 milligrams. I use 100% propylene glycol as a carrier for my nicotine, so you got the 100. Now, going back to we talked to in week 2, is if you want a max VG recipe, you click this little box right here, but I don't. I want a 75 ratio VG-PG. So nicotine strength, 3 milligram. The size I'm going to make, I'm only going to make a 30 mil of this. I'm not going to make a 60. But you can make anything you want. You can make up to 1,000 mils or whatever, however you guys want to do it. What the hell is wrong with my computer? Why is it doing this?
Try hitting the reload button.
My internet just went unstable for some reason. I don't know why. That's out. There you go. I never did that to me before. Maybe it's because I'm so used to using it on my cell phone when I'm mixing.
I don't know.
Okay, so what's that?
Go ahead.
No, so going back to when we talked week 2, when we were discussing all the flavors software. if you guys haven't caught that show yet, be sure to go back and watch it because I go over everything in here for you guys. It gives you the grams, milliliters, percentage of our recipe down here. And then, like I said, if you want to mess with all the flavors, it gives you options to where you can enter in how much you paid for the concentrates, and it'll tell you exactly how much it cost you to make this juice. See, like, yeah, my computer froze up. That 60 stuck on my screen. I don't know why. So don't look at this 60 here. I don't know what the hell. Like, totally weird. But anyhow, so I'm going to go off screen share, guys. Now that you've got the idea on how to input that recipe into all the flavors, and like I said, we tweaked it.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
stop
So this little exercise is just to teach somebody how to take a recipe that's already out there and just change it just a little bit so that it's more what you're looking for. And this is actually the beginning of somebody mixing. To try to just come up with a recipe out of the blue, not looking at somebody else's recipe and seeing what percentages they use as a beginning mixer is something that almost all beginning mixers do. I know I did it, and all of my creations were terrible. I mean, they really were, and it was very it was very it was very difficult for me to come up with a good recipe. It made me feel like, well, I can't even do this. It wanted me to just give up mixing. And once I started looking at other people's recipes, seeing what they used, tweaking them just a little bit, not much, adding a little bit of graham maybe, adding a little bit of Bavarian cream or cheesecake, whatever, just to add a little more flavor to it, to my liking. That's what convinced me that, hey, maybe I can do this. And that's why we're showing you how to do this. Because the next step to a beginner mixer is actually learning your flavors. Before you can start adding flavors, you have to know what that flavor tastes like on its own. And that's when you really begin to start developing your own recipes, is if you understand your flavors. So this is just a way to get you started, get you vaping something that's good, that's decent, so that you then can devote your time to your single flavor testing, which is, I think we're going to try to cover that next week, right, David?
Yeah, we're going to try to do a little bit of that. Sorry if I was a little lackadaisical today for some reason. My brain's elsewhere. There's a lot of things that we discussed before the show, and sorry about this, guys. But it's getting a little bit better going on towards. Yeah, so like I said, this is a pretty easy mix. This is now, instead of doing a 2 flavor, we're doing a 4 flavor today. We incorporated some New York cheesecake, and we also incorporated some vanilla whipped cream for you guys to kind of tweak the recipe a little bit, to kind of give it, like Folk Art said, give it a little bit more texture, give it a little bit more flavor, kind of give it a little bit more body, kind of give it a little bit more flair than what you were used to vaping last week with just that regular strawberry ice cream or strawberries and cream. So like I said, I'm making a 30 mil. Folk Art, I didn't release this recipe, so I don't know if I could probably still screen share it if you want to, but I mean that's up to you.
No, that's fine. I can tell people what we're using. If they want to look at the recipe, they can watch the video over and take a look at it. But
so I mean, like I said, we did the New York cheesecake, so we're adding the 4% New York cheesecake to that strawberries and cream that we did last week. So with the 4%, and I'm doing a 30 mil, it's asking for 1.2 grams of New York cheesecake. Grab that. 1 second.
So David, it looks like you've gotten the beaker out today instead of a dropper bottle.
Yeah, I didn't feel like using my 120 mil bottle. I'm kind of out of 30 mils, and I didn't even put a nipple on this. Let's see how good I am at pouring this shit in there.
That's actually what I used when I first started mixing, was a beaker, and I had one of those. You can buy those little those little stir or not stirs, but what do you call them? Like a frother.
Pipette.
No,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
a frother. It's like a little tiny mixer, and I use that in a beaker when I first started mixing, and it worked good. But then I had to clean the beaker and clean the little mixer and everything. And I saw Wayne one time mixing up a recipe, and he was just putting it in his bottle that he was going to have his juice in. I thought, well, shit, that makes sense. You don't have to clean anything.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I've had these. I usually use these beakers. This
Yeah.
actually is this is just 100 ml beaker. I
Right.
have them all the way down to I have like 50. It comes in like a set of
Oh yeah.
4 or 5. You can get them on Amazon. I think I paid I think you go all the way up to a 1,000 ml beaker, and I think they were like $15 for like 4 or 5 of them. A
Yeah.
little lightweight. I'm surprised on the lightness of them. I thought they were going to be super heavy, like a Pyrex measuring cup, but they are like super light, which is nice. When
Yeah.
putting it on a scale, it doesn't really add that extra weight if you mix by weight on your scale, because the 501 only goes up to what 500 grams
Yeah, it
respectively
does.
in the
Yeah.
mix. So
Yeah.
okay, I go ahead.
I was just going to say, and if anybody's interested in some of those scales, the links to those scales on Amazon is down in the description of the video.
Yeah. Okay, so I added the strawberry. We kept the strawberry the same from last week. We did a 6% and a 30 ml mix. It's a 1.8 grams or 1.8 mil. So, and then moving on, we did the TFA vanilla bean ice cream last week at 8%. Now, being that we had the New York cheesecake at 4%, we're going to drop down that vanilla bean ice cream down to 2.5% from 8%. Now, and like I said, it's just to balance out the recipe so it doesn't muddy. The recipe's not muddy. It gets a little bit more balanced. That way you can get those textures, like Folk Art said, to really meld together and make sure you can taste everything in the recipe. So that's going to be 0.75.
Yeah, and another reason why we decided to lower that vanilla bean ice cream is if you use two flavors that are kind of similar in taste, they're probably using some of the same molecules to get some of those same flavors. And if you over flavor in a recipe, that's where it starts to get muddy. So if we were to have used that 8% vanilla bean ice cream plus 4% cheesecake, it would have become muddy or muted. And that's a mistake that most beginning mixers make, is that more flavoring doesn't always mean more flavor.
Yeah, we decided not to do the cheesecake graham cracker. We opted to go with the Cap vanilla or the Cap New York cheesecake.
Yeah.
Okay, so now onto your nicotine. Some people actually add their nicotine before they mix. I just follow that way. I mean, how I do it, guys, and you guys should get used to it too. This is another thing that this mixers should get a habit if you're mixing by weight. So when you set up all your supplies, your nicotine, your PG, your VG, and all that stuff, when you're ready to do a mix, and I should have explained this last week. A good rule of thumb to when you're doing a mix is, number one, follow it from top to bottom. That way you're not missing any of the ingredients that you're putting in there. That way you don't forget to put in the cheesecake, the nicotine, the PG, or whatever, and line up your flavors in order. So, like, I'll go back to screen sharing real quick just so I can give you guys an idea on what the hell I'm talking about here. Going back to the recipe. Because all I gotta do is add my nicotine, PG, and all that stuff. Let me maximize this here real quick. I don't know why this is doing this. So going back to this here with the New York cheesecake. So basically, you want to do is your first ingredient is going to be your New York cheesecake. Then you're going to line up your strawberry. Then you're going to line up your vanilla bean ice cream. Then you're going to line up your whipped cream. Then you're going to line up your nicotine. All that stuff should be lined up. That way you can grab one after another, put it to the side, grab one, put it in, put it to the side, grab the next one, put it in, put it to the side. That way you know that everything's in order and you're not missing any of the flavors. And that way if you get sidetracked and if somebody, if the phone rings or something like that, or you got to answer the door, okay, this is where I got to go next. That way you're not just everything's not jumbled. Kind of keep it organized is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got to add my nicotine in this mix. 0.93. I should have known that by now. My scale probably turned off. That's another good thing that I like about the 501, guys, is that it does take batteries, which is pretty cool. So you don't have to put a power. It does come with a power cord also. I believe if the power cord is in, it won't shut off on you. I might be wrong, but I've never really used my power cord for it anyway. So,
Yeah, I've used my skills for about 2 years now, and about a year and a half now. It came with batteries, and I've never had to change them. Those things are they last forever.
They do. They do really last forever. Now, That's one thing that I do change mine though, like every 6 months, just in case, because I know one time like my scale got it started getting goofy where it was like jumping around a lot, and I think that might have been because my batteries started getting low on me, and I think that might have been the reason. For that. We're looking at 2.49. So anybody in the chat good today, folk? Or I really didn't get a chance to take a look.
We have Lalani. We have Jeffrey Dow.
All right.
Yeah, we've got Train Sonic. I believe he might be new. Shout out to Mark Sr. or Mark SR. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Shout out to everybody in the chat, man.
Yeah,
Thanks for support. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Put folk art on the spot, telling everybody to get a shout out in the chat, Gonna put my beat at 28.3. Now I'm gonna tell you what, guys, this is gonna be a pretty tasty mix. I've made kind of a similar recipe back in the day when I first started mixing. And it gives it a little bit more texture, a little bit more flavors. It's a little bit better. 28.
And who doesn't love cheesecake? I mean, come on. Everybody loves cheesecake.
I do make a cheesecake, but I actually added a couple more different layers in it. And you'll learn that, once you mix for a while, you'll learn your flavors and stuff like that. And like Folk Court said, we'll probably end up. I'm just going to take this off the scale and get back on the scale. It smells pretty freaking good, man. I miss strawberry. I've been off strawberry probably for almost a year.
Yeah.
I haven't really pissed with strawberries. And then when I made that mustard milk last week, I baked pretty much all of it. It was pretty decent. I enjoyed it. And it's been a while since I had a strawberry cheesecake as well. Yeah. Now that's another thing too, guys. You can also add other things. If you don't like, New York cheesecake, like if you do a flavor test on like a single flavor test, and I think that's some of the stuff that you said we're going to be talking about next week, Folk Art.
Yeah, I think we'll probably talk about single flavor testing, and we may get into like maybe even writing some flavor notes. Nothing complex, just simple.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, this is the thing. Like, see, that's the good thing about mixing at home. Not only is it cheap, making your own juice, is that if you make this mix that we decided to do tonight, and you say to yourself, I mixed this and this is shit. Well, you might not like the New York cheesecake. And, when we talk about single flavor testing next week, guys, you don't have to use it. You can use like a cheesecake graham cracker crust where it has like more, graham cracker. To me, we'll say TFA cheese graham cracker crust doesn't really have a cheesecake feel to me. I get more of a graham note out of it than I do cheesecake.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can incorporate that with, some other flavors, like maybe an almond or something like that. You can use that almond at low percentages to kind of give it more of a, kick. I think it's mixed up pretty good. I'm just gonna dump it right on my RDA.
Okay. I made a cheesecake recipe it's been a while now, and I need to revisit it again. But I actually used a little bit of Capella Greek yogurt in it, just a touch, and a little bit of lemon lime, just a touch, to try to give it a little more brightness, and that seemed to work pretty well for me.
Yeah, that's about the how was you just talking about the
The cheesecake, the
yeah.
Greek yogurt.
Yes, the Greek yogurt, Capella's Greek yogurt. I don't. I we're kind of getting off tangent with the new mixers, but Capella Greek yogurt to me, I use that more as a cream than I do a yogurt.
Yeah, I mean, it was just for just a little bit of sourness. I've tasted cheesecakes where it has just a little bit of a little sour bite to it, and that was the reason I put it in there, just a touch. But the reason we're telling you this, guys, is that this is how you tweak recipes, and if you're looking for
Yeah,
a little extra something that for a recipe that already exists, you can try it out. It's not going to cost much
make it
just to try it out.
just make it your own. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's all. You can experiment with it.
yeah,
Throw some stuff in there, and if you don't like strawberry, use a blueberry. If you don't like blueberry, use a banana.
yeah,
Pick a fruit. You
yeah.
know what I mean? I know I made a lemon cheesecake. I mean, it wasn't just the exact same recipe. I made a lemon cheesecake. I made a lime cheesecake because I like lemon and I like lime. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I got tired of vaping strawberry because I vaped it for so long. I was like, I'm done with strawberry, and I picked lemon, and it took it to another dimension. It took it to another level. It literally tasted like a new juice to me. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
another thing too, guys, is you notice that I don't mix with gloves. Just new mixers out there, throw a pair of gloves on. I know we
Yeah.
talked about that at the beginning. It's about safety, guys.
Yeah.
It smells good.
Bum bum bum.
No, it's good. I know it's good. I've had it before, but the only thing is I ran out of Capella's New York cheesecake version 1, and I had 120 mil of version 2 laying around, so that's why I used it. So it's not going to be as creamy with the version 2. You know what I mean? You'll still get that texture, but it won't be as heavy because then I'll
Right.
put that DAP in there, that diacetyl. But it's still good though.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what were some of real quick, you guys in the chat, Lelani, if you're still in there, I can't see the chat. I'm not even looking at it because I actually had all the flavors up, maximized on my screen. But for you guys in the chat and for you, folk art, a couple questions before we get out of here for today. What were some of the first 4 flavor? I mean, here's the deal, though, too, guys. I mean, even though we did 4 flavors, 4 flavor mixes. That could be an outstanding, phenomenal recipe.
Absolutely.
You don't have to put 8 to 10 flavors in a recipe in order to make it good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, what were some of your recipes that you experimented with? I know you talked at the beginning of the show a little bit about some of the stuff that you did when you first started mixing.
Well,
what were some of the recipes you did?
Some of the very first recipes I ever tried, I was trying to make a strawberry waffle, which it became a horrible failure. I later on came up with another one that was much better. But the mistake that I made on most of my early recipes was I was doing just what you said. I was using way too many flavorings in a recipe, and I was unintentionally over flavoring my mixes, and it just tasted like a muddy mess. I would get like a floral taste from it, or it was it just really did not taste good. And so that was my problem when I started watching Wayne's show on DIY or Die, and watching a lot of YouTube videos, and really started learning that, hey, slow it down, start simple, 4, 5, maybe 6 ingredients. Try to use as few as ingredients as you can to still get that same profile that you're going for, and your recipes will be much clearer, much brighter, and they won't be muddy.
And that's some of the stuff that we're going to talk to Aaron Art. He did a caramel rum, almond, and RY4 double. There you go. That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
that sounds awesome, Aaron. What else we got here? Russ, he said, or Jeffrey, mustard milk modified to your liking. Okay. Let me see. So So basically, too, I mean, that's the thing too, and that's a lot of the stuff. Now that we got 2 recipes out of the way, we're gonna really start getting in depth with you guys starting next week with single flavor testing. To kind of touch on what Folk Art was just talking about too, about simplifying your recipes. You know, I see this in a lot of mixers from time to time. Like they'll throw a recipe out there, and they'll put like 5 different vanillas in there, or they'll put like yeah, like kind of like the same. Like we're what Folk Art, going back to what he says about the flavor molecules in a specific concentrate that you have. They sometimes they share the same chemical compounds in them. So when you're adding those 2 flavors in there, you're just doubling up on that chemical compound, and it's going to make your juice muddy, or it's going to throw it off balance. Like it's just going to bombard it with a certain chemical, and it's just going to make it taste like shit. I mean, you know what I mean? So it's about doing flavor testing, and that's what we're going to talk about next week. And that's another mistake that I see a lot of new mixers make also, is they tend to use too many concentrates of the same profile together. They kind of overthink it, and they tend to use really high percentages in a mix. Yeah. Now, depending on your palate, though, you might need that with certain flavors. Like there's people out there that can't taste strawberry. There's people out there that, like for me, instance, I know certain cream flavors or like custards, or I get a cardboard sometimes from it, or especially like the waffle flavors out there and stuff. Yeah. And like the cereal flavors, like cereal 27 from Capella, I taste the cardboard, you know what I mean? So yeah. It's very important. I mean, I'm not saying it's not good to like follow other people's flavor notes out there in the community. It'll give you a basic idea, but until you really try those flavors for yourself, you're not going to know. Yeah. You know what I mean? You'll be able to pick out those, whatever's on your palate, those nuances. I know it's a term that Wayne uses, but he's 100% correct on that. You'll be able to pick out those little bits of flavor that somebody else might not taste. Exactly. You know what I mean? And you'll be able to adjust those to your liking in a recipe. You know what I mean? You might not like strawberry at 6%. Drop it down to 3. You know what I mean? You might not like cheesecake at 4%. Drop it down to 2 if you don't, you know what I mean? But there's always a threshold. There's always a happy median to where either that flavor, it's not going to be enough, or it's going to be too much. You have to find, and that's where flavor testing is. That's what we're going to talk about next. You have to find that happy spot that's good for you in the mix. You know what I mean? You might like it a little higher, But the thing is, what's kind of weird to me is I've seen a lot of commercial juice companies really go super high on some flavors in their mixes, which I don't understand why. But we'll discuss that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that either. Just something that I was going to mention too. That this is the 4th episode. Everything that we've shown so far, if a beginning mixer wanted to just have a really good vape, and that's all that they want, they could actually stop here and just do what we've done in these last 4 videos. If you want to go that step further and really start to create your own, then the videos to come is what you want to see. You could stop here if you wanted to and say, okay, I know how to mix. I know where to go to find good recipes. I'm good to go. But if you want to go a little bit further down that rabbit hole, stay with us and watch our next episodes.
Oh yeah, they're going to be pretty awesome. We're going to kind of get in depth on some stuff, and this is I think where it's going to take hold of a lot of people, and then they're going to find that they really enjoy it. Yeah. And they're just going to get to the point where they're going to love it. You know what I mean? And it's going to become like a crazy hobby for them, like it is us. Yeah. And maybe someday they'll be out there making videos themselves too. But there was a couple other things in the chat. Somebody was talking about some butterscotch Bavarian cream. Jeffrey, his first was an Orange Dream. He had orange cream, sweet cream, Bavarian cream, butterscotch, and honey. What? Real quick, Jeff, if you're still there. Yeah, fog up the rabbit hole. So what? Real quick, what was the honey that you used? And don't tell me it was FA. And if you did, you hopefully you didn't use it above. I mean, I like 0.1, but you know, if it was anything over that, it probably totally destroyed the mix and took. It probably just tasted
Yeah,
like just straight.
that's some strong stuff, buddy.
Yeah, it was probably pretty pretty strong. But yeah, we'll run a little bit over again today, which is cool because I like chatting with you guys, and looking at the chat and stuff like that. I really appreciate you guys coming out and supporting us. Pretty awesome. Like I said, if you like the video, please leave a like. Please subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned next week. We're going to have a lot more information for you, and we're going to get more in depth on a lot of stuff. Other than that, guys, thanks for coming out today and tonight, wherever it's day or night, wherever you guys are at. But thanks for joining us tonight, and that's all I got for today. What about you, folk? Or anything else?
I just want to remind everybody, for any of the links to anything that we talked about in the show, go down in the description. It'll be posted there. And I'm also posting some of the links to our Discord and our Facebook page and all that good stuff. So come check us out.
Oh, real quick, shout out to ID10T in the chat. What's up, my man? Thanks for coming out and supporting us today. I see you out there. TFA honey is cat piss. Yes, at any percent. You are 100% absolutely correct on that. I think all the honeys are kind of nasty, but, that's just my opinion. All right, guys, I'm out, man. You guys have a good week. We'll catch us on Sunday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time for our regular show that we do every week. I'm out, man. Take care. Have a good evening.
See you guys. Thanks for coming out.
Chuki beat.